Marvel might have just accidentally leaked the entire plot of Avengers Doomsday, and if even half of this is real, this movie could be bigger than Infinity War and Endgame combined. We're talking multiversal invasions, Deadpool and Wolverine destroying universes, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man fighting Logan, Loki's death, Doctor Doom becoming a literal god, and an ending so insane it completely reshapes the MCU. And before we start, serious spoiler warning, because this leak is massive. So the movie reportedly opens in a rainy New York City, but something is horribly wrong. High above the sky, another Earth is literally approaching this universe, and standing on a bridge, we see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine alongside Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool. Wolverine is visibly shaken, holding a device in his hands, an antimatter bomb. Right as Logan is about to plant it, he suddenly catches a familiar scent, and then Spider-Man appears, but not Tom Holland's Spider-Man. This is Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. He immediately realizes what Logan is trying to do and attempts to stop him from planting the device. Deadpool jumps into the fight, and suddenly we get this insanely intense three-way battle. What's interesting here is that Wolverine clearly does not want to hurt Peter, but Tobey's Spider-Man is overpowering both of them while desperately trying to stop the bomb from activating. Eventually though, Logan succeeds. Deadpool opens a portal using a stolen temp pad and tells Wolverine it's time to leave because the mission is complete. Meaning, yes, they just destroyed an entire universe. And then the scene cuts to Charles Xavier's mansion. An older Professor X stands near the window watching the destroyed remains of that universe falling from the sky. He looks completely devastated, carrying the guilt of another world dying. Then we jump to Steve Rogers. After traveling back in time during Endgame, Steve has been living peacefully with Peggy Carter and their son James. But suddenly he receives an unexpected visitor, Loki. And this version of Loki reportedly exists between the events of Loki Season 1 and Season 2. Loki explains the TVA to Steve and tells him that because of the Avengers' actions, he was given a second chance. But Steve unknowingly created a paradox timeline, one that was never supposed to exist. The TVA plans to prune it, but Loki sees that Steve finally got the happy ending he deserved. So, despite Mobius warning him not to interfere, Loki secretly relocates Steve and his family into another universe and gives Steve a TVA device so he can contact him later. And this is where things get really interesting. Steve has now apparently spent the last 10 years living inside the Fantastic Four universe. Then the movie shifts to Earth 828. Reed Richards, Johnny Storm, and Ben Grimm are at a baseball game when they receive an emergency alert from the Baxter building. The moment they arrive, they find Sue Storm, Franklin Richards, and Dr. Doom. Doom warns them that after years of studying the multiverse, he discovered that an incursion is coming. He explains that when the fabric between realities breaks down, universes begin pulling toward each other like magnets, and the collision point is always their Earths. According to Doom, their Earth somehow became the source of these incursions, and only Reed Richards may be intelligent enough to solve it. Now this is important. Sue Storm does not trust Victor at all, because standing in front of them is still the ruler of Latveria, a man known for manipulation and control. Reed and Doom begin investigating strange genetic anomalies across the planet and eventually discover 3 unique energy signatures: Steve Rogers, Peggy Carter, and James. They track Steve down, and who now has long hair and a beard after spending a decade hiding in this universe. Steve explains everything: the Infinity Stones, time travel, the alternate timeline, Loki, the TVA, and after extensive research, they uncover something terrifying. One universe is intentionally destroying other universes, which is apparently the X-Men universe. They've been using antimatter bombs to wipe out worlds before incursions happen. Steve is completely against this idea, but Reed believes every possible solution must be considered. Then Steve reveals he knows somewhere with technology advanced enough to help them. Doom warns everyone that their universe is not only colliding with the X-Men universe, but also Earth 616, meaning the Fantastic Four universe, the X-Men universe, and the MCU are all connected to the Doomsday event. But Doom also reveals something terrifying. Traveling between universes speeds up incursions even faster, meaning they're running out of time. Everyone begins carrying stopwatches to monitor the countdown. Then Steve boards the Fantastic Four ship alongside Doom and the team. Inside the ship are Franklin Richards, Herbie, Steve Rogers, Dr. Doom, and the Fantastic Four. But once they enter Earth 616 orbit, the new Avengers detect them immediately. Thor personally intercepts the ship, believing it may be a threat. And this reportedly becomes one of the emotional highlights of the movie. Thor sees Steve Rogers again for the first time. At first, he doesn't believe it's really him, but then Steve lifts Mjolnir, and Thor instantly knows. The reunion between these two is supposedly emotional, heartfelt, and massive for longtime MCU fans. Then Sam Wilson, Yelena, Bucky, and the rest of the Avengers arrive at Avengers Tower, and immediately the argument begins. Who should lead this mission? Thor and Sam eventually unite everyone, while Steve explains the situation. The team decides to travel to Wakanda, but when Steve arrives there expecting to meet King T'Challa, he instead meets King M'Baku and Black Panther Shuri, and Wakanda already knows about the incursions. They've secretly been researching solutions. Then suddenly, the sky turns red, the first visible sign of an incursion begins. At this point, Shuri reveals that they may have another ally, Namor. We then see Namor sitting on his throne deep underwater, and apparently he's preparing to use the oceans themselves as weapons if war breaks out. Once Namor joins the discussion, the heroes realize 3 Earths are on a collision course: Earth 616, Earth 828, and the X-Men universe. Steve tells Thor that Loki is alive and has essentially become the protector of the multiverse, meaning Loki might know how to stop everything. Now, every hero starts debating possible solutions. Reed believes multiversal death may simply be a natural process. Sam Wilson believes they must stop the incursions without sacrificing innocent lives. Namor completely disagrees. He believes if another universe must die to save theirs, then so be it. And he specifically wants to target the X-Men universe first because they're already destroying worlds. Meanwhile, Shuri and Sue Storm secretly work together behind the scenes because neither fully trusts Doom. Then Sam suggests using the Infinity Stones again. Scott Lang immediately shuts that idea down, explaining quantum realm time travel is now too dangerous. Steve agrees. He admits his own timeline mistake may have helped create this disaster in the first place. Reed then explains that Galactus was technically a natural solution for dying planets. But now nobody knows where Galactus is. However, Reed has another idea, using massive interdimensional cannons capable of physically pushing universes apart, technology similar to what he previously experimented with in his own universe. So the heroes begin building these giant cannons using Wakandan technology. But there's a problem. They need matching devices built inside the other universes too, meaning teams must split up and travel across realities. One group stays behind on Earth 616. Another heads toward the X-Men universe. Meanwhile, Thor and Steve use Loki's TVA device to travel directly to the TVA itself. And this is where everything goes wrong, because when they arrive, the TVA has already been destroyed. Mobius is missing. The timelines are collapsing uncontrollably. Eventually, they find Mobius hiding, and he reveals that someone wearing a green hood and mask attacked the TVA. Everything was destroyed. And then we learn the horrifying truth. During the regrouping earlier in the movie, Doom secretly returned to his universe supposedly to upgrade his armor. But that was a lie. This entire time, Dr. Doom had been executing his real plan. Back in the X-Men universe, war erupts between the X-Men and Doom's Sentinel army. And according to the leak, this sequence is one of the greatest battles Marvel has ever filmed. We reportedly get Yelena versus Mystique, Shang-Chi versus Gambit, Nightcrawler showcasing insanely creative teleportation combat. And yes, Deadpool literally slaps Mr. Fantastic in the face with his balls during the fight. Classic Deadpool. But then, something suspicious happens. Dr. Doom reactivates old Sentinels specifically designed to hunt mutants, and everyone realizes something terrifying. How does Doom know this much about the X-Men universe? Magneto enters the battlefield and fights the Sentinels himself. Then, Charles Xavier finally takes Reed Richards aside and introduces him to Beast. And Beast reveals the dark truth. The X-Men universe has survived multiple incursions already. Their solution? Destroy other universes first. They place antimatter bombs inside collapsing worlds before the incursions happen, and they specifically target universes without mutant populations. Beast explains that mutants are already endangered enough across the multiverse, and they're simply trying to prevent mutant extinction. He even references the events of Days of Future Past, confirming they've already used time travel once before to save mutant kind. Then the movie cuts back to Thor and Steve inside the TVA. Mobius finally brings them to Loki, but they were too late. Loki is dead. The timelines have completely broken free and begun colliding uncontrollably. Mobius reveals the attacker wore a green hood and mask, and suddenly everything points toward Doom. Meanwhile, back in the X-Men universe, the battle escalates even further. The Fantastic Four and X-Men attempt to stop the fighting, but Doom declares this is destiny. The X-Men must fall so others may survive. Then Thor arrives and attacks Doom in pure rage. Steve exposes Doom's betrayal in front of everyone, but Doom is now terrifyingly powerful. His green eyes glow. Even Thor is afraid of him. Doom defeats multiple heroes with ease before kidnapping Steve Rogers and escaping back to his own universe. Then, all surviving heroes regroup on Earth 66, and this is where the final war begins. Thor prays to Odin, and Odin responds from Valhalla by sending an army of dead heroes to help fight Doom. Every hero says goodbye to their loved ones as they prepare for the greatest battle in MCU history. Then we finally arrive in Latveria. Dr. Doom returns home and is welcomed like a king. We meet Boris, Doom's loyal servant, and beside him stands a mysterious masked magician with a third eye on the mask. Many fans believe this is Doctor Strange. Then another shocking reveal happens. A woman removes her mask, and it's Peggy Carter, although the leak never confirms whether this is truly Peggy or simply someone manipulated by Doom. We also reportedly hear mentions of Wanda and Clea working alongside Doom's forces. Then, Doom finally reveals his backstory. He was once a Latvian researcher, obsessed with understanding the multiverse through both science and magic. During his journey, he fell in love with a woman from another universe. They married, had a child together, but her very existence triggered incursions. Desperate to save everything, Doom attempted a dangerous experiment. It failed catastrophically. The explosion killed his family and horribly scarred his body, which is why he now hides behind armor and a mask. And this is where Doom fully breaks psychologically. He becomes obsessed with one idea. Why do Reed Richards and Steve Rogers get happy endings while he loses everything? Doom admits he intentionally allowed incursions to continue because he wanted to map the entire multiverse. But eventually he discovered something even greater. Loki. Doom reveals he planned to steal Loki's powers all along, and in one horrifying flashback, we reportedly see Doom ripping Loki's spine out of his body, just like he once did to Thanos in the comics. By absorbing Loki's power, Doom believes he can reshape all reality itself. His ultimate plan is to merge every universe into a single reality and rule over it as God Emperor Doom. Then, the final battle begins. Every hero attacks Doom together, but he's nearly unstoppable. Using Loki's powers, Doom manipulates reality, magic, timelines, and the multiverse itself. His witches and servants perform rituals around a glowing book heavily implied to be the Darkhold. The multiverse itself begins collapsing. Then, suddenly, Sentry arrives, and he physically attempts to hold the collapsing realities apart, long enough for the heroes to stop Doom. But even Sentry isn't powerful enough. The incursions continue. The multiverse finally collapses completely. A massive white flash consumes everything, and as the light slowly fades, we see him, God Emperor Doom, sitting on his throne. And that's reportedly where Avengers Doomsday ends. Now honestly, this leak sounds insanely believable. Almost every major rumor we've heard over the past months somehow connects back to this storyline, but there are still a few things that feel questionable. Charles Xavier willingly allowing universes to die feels morally wrong for his character. Loki dying this early also feels suspicious. Personally, I think Loki survives somehow, but Doom still steals his throne and power. Still though, if even 50% of this leak is real, Avengers Doomsday might become Marvel's darkest movie ever made. So now I want to know your thoughts. Which part of this leak sounded the craziest to you? Do you actually believe Marvel would make the X-Men morally gray like this? And do you think God Emperor Doom is really how this movie ends? Drop your theories in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more Marvel deep dives and leaks every single day.